about that song, Tora? You like it? I just had this OBE-VR lucid dream come back to me. Well, if I really think about it, I could probably have a lot of them come back to me on purpose. But this one just like, bam. I don't know why it just came back to me, but that's so weird. That happens a lot when I'm about to do videos. Like all these bits and pieces of ones that I've had like millions of years ago comes back to me. But anyway, yeah, it's because I mean, I don't know why, but so yeah, like this one came back to me just on a whim or whatever. The only way I know how to describe it, okay, I do remember it was kind of dusk-like, and of course back then, you know, I thought it was just my own brain making up the dreams or whatever for me. And but anyway, I was in the front yard walking around, and it was dusk time. And the only way I know how to describe it was like walking around the front yard of like the set of Munsters or Addams Family or something like that. And because there was all these like, you know, like people in like Halloween type of costumes or whatever. But anyway, I don't know why that just came back to me, but it did. And there was a lot more to it too. The aliens probably copied off of, I wouldn't be surprised if that was like in October or something, and they're probably, Joel probably created that for me, you know, because I was walking down Walmart or something and saw all these costumes or something, you know. And I never did really watch Munsters or, well, I did watch Munsters just a few times. I never really watched Addams Family, but I did watch Munsters like just a couple times when I was younger or whatever. But anyway, I don't know why that just came back to me. And that one was an awesome feeling. Felt like a different dimension, everything. But anyway, I don't know why some of these they come back to me when I'm about to do videos. It's really weird. But anyway, so okay, so wait a minute. So this one, why are too good OBE? Shit. Okay, so this morning, I gotta hurry up, man. I had this awesome OBE-VR lucid dream that I was literally riding my bicycle, and it was a 10 speed, because I used to have 10 speed. And, oh yeah, all this other shit's coming back to me, man. Oh, thank God. And, from this experience, because like I said, I didn't write it down or anything. But I was kind of perturbed, because after I woke up and everything, I'm like, I was supposed to go all the way to the south part of town. I was supposed to go all the way, you know, to my part of town where, you know, like where I live, near Battlefield Street. But I started off way at the north part of town on my bicycle, and I rode, and in this scenario, I literally physically rode for, you know, let's see, wait, hold on. Where did I get that from? The hour? Well, anyway, for hours and hours. And so I started on, but anyway, the scenario stopped when I was to Division Street. And I'm like, what the hell? You know, I have many more streets to go to get to Battlefield Street. And I don't think the aliens had any, I don't think Joel had any intention of making me ride all the way to Battlefield Street. But yeah, this was like wild, and this isn't the first time that I've had experiences like this, because I was on a motorcycle one time, and I think that was even before I owned motorcycles. Well, maybe not. I don't know. I may have already, but I can't remember if I already had my motorcycle or not. But I've been on a motorcycle before, and literally riding it, you know, down through a weird town, through several streets, blah, 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 for a long, long, long time, and I literally, you know, physically was on the motorcycle and stuff. So in this scenario, it's like it started way on the north part of town, and there used to be some empty grassland over there. There could be houses in there now, but there was like empty grassland, and it's like I was standing there with my family, talking and stuff, like my mom, my sister, yeah, like my mom's sister, stepdad, and it's like we just, that wasn't part of the scenario, but it was like we just ate at a restaurant or something. And then, like I said, I got on my 10-speed bike. I told him bye and said I'm gonna ride back home now. So I literally had to go all the way past Kearney Street on north part of town, and I was gonna ride my bike all the way to Battlefield Street. I was gonna stop about right there, Battlefield Street, the intersection of Battlefield and Glenstone. And that's not the first time I've had experiences where I was riding my bike right there. I've had many other OBE-VR lucid dreams where I was riding my bike right there, right down partial, Glenstone right there, near, where that bus stop is and shit, by Barnes & Nobles and the mall. But that was many, 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 many years ago, before I started doing videos. Okay, so I started on my 10-speed bicycle. There was some perverted stuff in here too. Some sexual stuff. It's kind of funny. But anyway, I'll edit that part out. So anyway, so I got on my bicycle. That was after I got off of my bicycle and I was sitting with my friend Angie. Okay, so anyway, I got off my bicycle. I got on the bicycle and I started riding. I mean, like physically. It took, I would say it took, in the scenario, non-3D time, it took me probably 30 minutes to get, or maybe an hour to get from past Kearney Street to, something held me up. I had to take a detour, but what's the street called? It took me quite a while to get to Kearney. I would say an hour or longer. And, when I was under the scenario, like it probably took an hour or longer to get from past Kearney Street to Kearney Street. Past Kearney Street going north. So I was on my bicycle, I rode, and I had my backpack, and I had like a water bottle, and then I had like I had 3 things, and then I had like a fanny pack type of thing, and a water bottle, and my backpack. And so I just kept riding, and in this scenario, it was kind of dusk too. It wasn't sunny. It was kind of dusk, kind of cloudy. But later in the scenario, it seemed like it got a little darker. But so I just kept riding, and then all of a sudden, so I rode for like probably an hour on my bike, and I had to take a detour. So I had to take a right down. Well, in the scenario, it was kind of like it was down. I had to take a detour down that street before Kearney Street, but it really was Kearney Street, so to speak. So I had to take a detour and I had to take a right because I had to go around where they were doing highway work. And then eventually I did make it to Kearney Street. And but anyway, this is a very, very, very long scenario, and I swear I didn't even, as far as I remember, I went to bed by 10 o'clock, and it probably took me till about 10:30 to fall asleep, but I don't remember getting up one time to go to the bathroom. So I literally slept from 10:30 to like 6 to about 6:15, I think it was. 10:30 to about 6:15. I don't even remember getting up one time to go to the bathroom. But anyway, so then but this was so weird. Like, so I came at a halt, I came to a halt, and the construction workers came up to me and said, you got to take a detour and go down that street, which was really kind of like Kearney Street, but that was still before I got to the official Kearney Street. So I took a detour down that street to the right. I rode down it quite a ways, and then I came back, and I went around the detour, and then, I was to Kearney Street, but, I was to Kearney Street, but I went past Kearney Street, so then I was just kind of like on Glenstone, but I finally, because I had to go around Kearney Street, and then I finally made it to way past Kearney Street onto Glenstone. And, but it was so weird, like when I looked at the highway, when I looked at the road, it was just so weird. It's like the concrete, or asphalt, whatever it is, it was like buckled up, like higher than me. It was like higher than my bicycle. Like it was just like all buckled up in hills, like little hills, And it was so weird. I could see through like the layers of the concrete. It was so weird. I wish I knew how to draw it, but it would be so hard to try to draw it exactly. But so it's like there was just all these like gaps and shit. And actually in the scenario it was more like you know, the roads that I was on was more like high up. It wasn't, they weren't straight on the ground, or at least in this part of the scenario, they, you know, kind of like an overpass, but it wasn't very high off the ground. The roads weren't very high off the ground, but it was above me. When I looked at Kearney Street, it was just like all these like horizontal layers of like all these holes and gaps, like buckled up, but they were buckled up, like I say, 5 feet high, like above me. And I was looking through like the gaps and stuff, and I'm like, wow, you know, I can't ride through that. I'll fall through the gaps, you know, onto the bottom, whatever the bottom was, you know, 5 feet down onto asphalt or concrete. So, anyway, after I bypassed that, and I went, well, actually, no. So after I actually, you know, physically looked at the weird concrete and shit, and all, there was a lot of construction workers, I don't know, like 5 or 6, and like a lot of equipment and stuff. And like I say, in the scenario, it wasn't asphalt. In the scenario, it was more like whitish concrete, but it was just all these buckled up layers. And I could see through a lot of the layers and crap, and I knew, I was like, wow, I can't ride through that. Okay, so I stopped. I came to a stop. And that's when there was 2 construction workers that came up to me and said that, okay, you can't ride through here, you're going to have to take a detour. And that's when I took a right and went way down, not too far down, but many yards down Kearney Street. And then I rode back around the detour, and then I was back on Glenstone, and then I was riding my way to Division Street. Okay, so anyway, but yeah, then when he said, and I was way over, you know, to the right side of the, you know, of the road, and the concrete, the construction worker, and he's like, here, you know, you got to take the detour down that street. He's like, and I looked down, and it was like 4 feet down, and I'm like, crap, I don't want to jump that far. And like with my bike in my hands down there, you know, 4 or 5 feet down. So basically the roads, it wasn't like a true overpass, but the roads were like, you know, 5 feet above the ground, which is kind of weird, I know. And beneath was just kind of like concrete or whatever. So the construction worker said, you know, I said, well, I don't want to jump that far down because that looks to be about, you know, 4 or 5 feet. That looks too far to be jumping with my backpack and everything. So he's like, okay, let me help you. So I jumped down, and no, I walked back a little bit to where it was a slightly lower incline. It was slightly lower incline when I walked backwards. And then I jumped down, which I jumped down, you know, like 3.5 feet. And he picked up my bicycle and gave it to me, handed it to me. And then he picked up so I grabbed it and set it down, and then he grabs my backpack and he gives it to me, and I put it on me or whatever, and then he grabbed my water bottle and he gave it to me. And then I put everything, you know, on the bicycle and then on my back, and then I started riding my bicycle. And then I started riding to Division Street. But before, well, I can't remember if it was before that or after that. I may have even went beyond Division Street, a little bit beyond Division Street. Then I started riding up in a building where there's a bunch of sidewalks. But I started riding up all the sidewalks, the white concrete sidewalks. And I don't know what building it was, but it was a building. And that's when I came across Angie, my friend Angie. And then that's when I got off my bicycle and we went off and on a what do you call it? Like a bench. And we sat down and we talked. And then that's when Joe kind of did some perverted things, which, you know, he does that all the time. But that's when there were some perverted things, but not with me and her. It was just some other perverted thing. But okay, so then, but like I say, I got to Division Street, and I rode past Division Street, a little bit, but I never made it to that next street, and I never rode all the way to Battlefield Street. But like I said, it took several hours to get, in the scenario, I was in this scenario for several hours. So it basically took several hours, to get from past Kearney Street to Kearney Street into Division Street and past Division Street. That took many, many, many hours. I mean, it may have only been, and when I was actually in bed having the scenario, it may have only been like an hour at least, or hour and a half. But in the scenario, it was several hours. And and that took some time when I stopped. And I don't know how Angie popped up in the scene, but it was just kind of like, she just happened to be there. And I was like, oh, hey, what are you doing here, And so we stopped off at a bench, and it was outdoors, right there. It was enclosed. It was kind of, the sidewalk and the bench was kind of in the middle of these buildings. And we started talking, I can't remember shit. I can totally remember the second freaking conversation though, but with that other woman. But this conversation, see, I can't remember the conversation, but we did talk and everything. And but I can't remember the conversation, but we did talk and everything. And I was sitting on my right, and she was sitting on my left on the bench. The bench was just it probably could have fit 3 people, but it was just kind of like a bench made for 2 or 3 people. Okay, so then I basically got on my bicycle again, and I started riding. And then, I was still like down Division Street. I made it past Division Street, and I was still trying to make it to the next street, which I can't remember what that is in real life. But like I said, after I woke up, I was just kind of like, pissed, because I'm like, okay, I'm supposed to ride to Battlefield Street. But damn, that would have taken a long time. Many more, hours in non-3D time. And that was exhausting. This experience, was kind of exhausting, Okay, so anyway, okay, no, you're not going to believe this. Okay, so, and by the way, I can't remember exactly what I had on, but I know I kind of had some nice clothes on. And, so that's where, the next part kind of comes in. Okay, so I start riding my bicycle. And, okay, so then, like I said, I start riding my bicycle. Then all of a sudden, I start riding in a little area where there seems to be some Asian restaurants. As far as I remember, I didn't smell anything. And there was like some tables outside, either tables or benches outside. And it was just a little area of small little like restaurants, like Asian restaurants. And there was this girl sitting there, and she looked. I know Joel copied this from Cobra Kai, because I just finished watching Cobra Kai, and then there's that one girl in it, and that one tough girl, and so she does kind of look Asian, and because this was kind of like a semi-Asian looking girl, kind of like that girl in Cobra Kai, and in that last season or whatever. And so she was sitting there on the bench, and she was only like 20. Oh no, maybe I'd say about 20. And then and then I go up to her, and then I sit down. Oh, because I just wanted to take a break. I was just trying to take a little break. That's all. And then she was just a stranger, and she started talking to me. And for some reason, she thought, even though I was dressed nice, she thought, I don't, like in the scenario, I was like, after she gave me something, I'll tell you what she gave me in a minute. But my thought was like, why would she think I was poor or something? Because, I'm not dressed real bad or anything, I was dressed kind of nice. But anyway, so we start talking and stuff, and she said, you're going to need this more than me. And I told her, like, I had a job and everything, and she acted like she was a college student, and she's like, but I want to give you something, and and then she like walked off, and then I opened it up, and it was $100 bill and a $50 bill. She gave me $150, and I'm like, I was thinking, why did she think I was poor or something? Because I told her I had a job, and she's like, well, you're gonna need this more than me, and I couldn't understand. So after she walked off, and after I got on my bicycle again, I just couldn't understand why she would think I was poor, because I didn't. I had some nice clothes on. I just can't remember what it was exactly, like just a pair of pants or whatever. And in this scenario, like I said, I didn't really feel any heat or anything like that. It just seemed like it was 60 degrees outside or something. It wasn't real hot or real cold. But anyway, so then I just kept riding, and then somehow I woke up about 6:15. And I was kind of perturbed. And she gave me the money in a white envelope. And after she walked off, that's when I opened it up, and there was a $100 bill, and then a $50 bill. And as far as I remember, there was even more money in it. But I was just like shocked, so I didn't even want to look to see how much more money was in it. But I knew it was, a $100 bill and a $50 bill. And like I say, there was even more bills in there that I didn't pull out. But yeah, so that was kind of funny. So anyway, yeah, so then I just got on my bike, and I just rode. Oh, you know what? I know where Joel got that amount from, though. Oh yeah, he's funny, man. I know where he got that amount. Cause in my head, but there was more bills in there, but I was just like so shocked she gave it to me. I just wanted it to be a surprise later. And, I was gonna look at in the envelope all the way later. But I know where Joe got that amount from, $150, because for Christmas, I was thinking of that amount. I was thinking, okay, I'll give my mom $50 and, two other people $50, and that's $150. But anyway, it's kind of cool. But yeah, that's kind of funny. But that's where Joel got that amount from. And I know where he got the sexual part from too, but I got to edit that part out. Edit. And there's a million other experiences I had too. At the mall, but there was. Oh, and two, it's like when the buckled up concrete and stuff, the white concrete, like all buckled up in mounds and stuff. When I looked in between the layers, there was like bright lights, because you know how I know Joel copied that from, like at nighttime, if they're doing construction, they'll put bright lights, if they're working under an overpass, there'll be all these bright lights, Yeah, so that was kind of cool. Okay, on January 7th, a few days ago, no, this was freaking weird too, this experience. Well, I'll talk about the other one too real quick, but I had this long drawn out, this was on January 7th too. I had this long drawn out scenario with like this ex-person, like in her house. It was so weird, it was so real, and it was so funny because this person was so much nicer in the scenario, because in real life, that person was like a psycho and shit, and shoplifted all the time. All the people I ever met were like shoplifters. I mean, at least if I steal, I don't just sit there and put shit in my pockets, you know what I mean? I'm not that obvious when I steal. But anyway, then it became sexual, but not with me and this person. It became sexual because Joel was showing me all this sexual shit, in the scenario. But it was a cool scenario, because sometimes, there may be somebody that's weird and crazy in real life, but in the scenario, the aliens will make the person like really stable-minded and really awesome. And it was so weird, but it was kind of like, wow. In the scenario, I was just like, and the person looked younger too, well, compared to what she would be in real life. But it was pretty fun. And like I say, it was like I was at her house, or apartment. I'm not sure if it was a house or apartment. And I've forgotten some of the details, but it lasted quite a while. There were some other people in the house, too. But the funny thing is... Okay, what was her name? Well, I know her name and everything, but the funny thing is, I wasn't thinking about that person. I don't know why Joel would put that person in the scenario, because I hadn't been thinking about that person in millions of years. But yeah, it was kind of interesting, though. But like I say, there was some sexual stuff, but it was Joel showing me stuff. Like just popping like a live videos and shit at me or whatever. But it was a fun experience. Okay, so then, the second experience I had that morning... a few more... Actually, I'll talk about the other one too real quick that I had. This was just a quick little experience that I had where I adopted this little kitten. And it looked just like Simba, except she was diabetic and she was female. And I can't remember what house we were in. We were in some room, either in my mom's house or this house. And I just kept looking down at it. And I was just like, wow, like, why would I adopt a diabetic cat? You know, diabetic kitten, because I already had a diabetic cat. But it was kind of interesting because it looked exactly like Simba, except she was female and she had diabetes. Because one of my cats, Cesar, has diabetes. So Joel was copying that. But that was kind of a little more quicker one. Okay, and then... Okay, but anyway, so the other one that I had on January 7th, I was walking around a mall, and over by some of the restaurants, or this wasn't quite where the food court was, but it was where there were a few restaurants over there. There was a famous person standing over there. As I was walking around this mall, like me and my mom were walking around this mall, and I'm not going to mention the famous person, but they were in there standing, standing over there. And so me and Mom were walking around where the food was, but not exactly at the food court yet. Okay, still in the non-food court area where there, was still booths of food and vendors. So we were in the non-food court area where there was still booths and food and vendors, and that's where that famous person was behind us. There was still booths and food and vendors. In the non-food court area where there was still booths and food and vendors, my mom and I walked up to a lasagna food vendor. And we weren't quite to the food court area yet. The lasagna, okay, this is so weird. As I looked up, the vendor was over to my right, and me and my mom were just standing there in front of the counter and stuff. That was to the right. As I looked up on the ceiling, the lasagna was being stored in these huge glass vats. Just kind of floating there, like 8 feet below the ceiling. Just kind of they were, several yards above us. But they were like glass see-through vats. And there was all this lasagna and shit in it. And, just right there outside of the, the lasagna food stand. Just, a few yards away from the food stand. Up. And these vats, oh, I forgot to say how big the vats were. These glass vats, was like, I don't know, 4 feet? A little over 4 feet by 4 feet. These big old round vats. And, but that was just so wild. That was so weird to see that. Okay, so the lasagna was being stored in these huge glass vats on the ceiling just outside of the lasagna food stand. Okay, so my mom sat there and ate some. I was being indecisive and wishy-washy, and I wasn't hungry yet. Then all of a sudden, several minutes passed or whatever, and I said, Mom, I'm hungry now. And I told my mom I wanted some lasagna, which I hate lasagna. I've always hated lasagna, even in real life. Except I liked the Olive Garden a long time ago. I used to like that, but that was the only lasagna I ever liked. So, of course, now it would taste like chemicals to me, but now I wouldn't be able to eat it anyway. But yeah, this is like a fucked up world, because you know, you can't start tasting chemicals till your brain enlightens. I know it's really weird, but that's how it works. Because back then, I guarantee you, I didn't, you know, prior to 35 years old or whatever, I didn't taste chemicals in the food. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, I finally told my mom I wanted, what are you doing, Tori? You look like you're about to spray. Quit that. What are you doing? And so I told my mom I wanted some lasagna. So we walked back over there and all the lasagna was gone. The vats were gone. They disappeared because the vendor had closed for the evening. So they were all gone. So then we started walking around looking for the actual food court because there still was an actual food court. But this area that we were in, it was just some, you know, individual little vendors here and there, food vendors and stuff. But that was wild to see the vats, the big vats. And that's not the first time Joel had put vats in my scenario. Remember he put the Kool-Aid vats? Remember my scenario with the Kool-Aid vats? Okay, there was this other scenario I had too, which was a blast. Oh yeah, and I actually asked for this one too. I asked for Joel to take me to Silver Dollar City. And so it was like me, my grandma, and my mom, and my sister. We were walking around Silver Dollar City, which we had done many, many times before in real life. And so we were walking around for a long time, Silver Dollar City. And the first thing me and Chrissy did was ride a ride. The ride was over there to the right. It was like what do you call it? In the scenario, it was laid out really different. The Silver Dollar City was laid out really different, but we started walking. And then me and my sister were alone, and then we met up with my grandma and my mom later, which we always did that in real life too. And then all of a sudden we came to one ride and we rode the Fire in the Hole. And we actually like went inside the ride and everything. We rode the Fire in the Hole. After we came back out of the ride, I was like, you know, why did we ride a petty ride like that when we could have rode the bigger rides? But a lot of the rides were closed because they didn't have enough manpower. So we did just ride, we did ride that ride because it wasn't closed. But when we came back out, I was like, told my sister, how come we didn't ride, any big rides? But like I say, some of them were actually closed. The park was pretty dead. There wasn't very many people walking around at all. Just a few people here and there. And this scenario lasted a pretty long time. And this part was funny. So then we ended up going to, we ended up walking. Okay, so then eventually we met up, me and my sister met up with my grandmother and my mom. And we started walking. And we went way over to the, I don't know, I guess you'd call it the east part of the park. And in the scenario, it was like an area that we just did not visit very often when we went to Silver Dollar City. And of course, in real life, there's actually parts kind of like that too, where, you don't really got to walk all the way to the amphitheater if you don't want to, but a lot of times we would, just for the heck of it, because there would never be anything going on in that amphitheater. But way over to the east side, like I say, in the scenario, the layout of the park was really different, and it felt really different, like a different dimension. It didn't feel like 3D or anything, but it was still a blast. It was still virtual reality. So we walked over to the east side of this area that we just never did go to, hardly ever, when we would go to Silver Dollar City. So then me, my mom, my grandma, my sister, we started walking up the hill to a taffy shop. And this is so funny. The angle was like a 75 degree angle. So we kept trying to walk up this hill, and I kept falling back. It was so weird. And at the same time, I was eating the strawberry taffy, and I could taste the taffy. Because I used to eat taffy in real life. I was able to taste the taffy. It was so cool. And I was walking the far left, and then it's like my grandma and my mom and my sister were to the right as we were walking up the steep incline. And at Silver Dollar City, there is this very, very, very steep hills and stuff that you got to go up sometime. But this was at a 75 degree angle, and I just kept falling back. Well, then eventually we came to flat ground, and we were just walking around flat ground again. And then this like older man came walking up to us and asked us if we wanted to go to a magic show in Arkansas. And he gave us some tickets. Yeah, he gave us some free tickets to this magic show in Arkansas. And he handed us the tickets, and I was like, okay, yeah. Like, yeah. I was just kind of like, yeah. Well, we'll probably go, which I knew we probably wouldn't, because my mom doesn't really like to drive or whatever, And so anyway, even though the tickets were free and everything, I knew we probably would never go, but I told him, I was like, yeah, we'd like to go, and blah, 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 blah. But yeah, so that was kind of funny. I don't know why Joel put the magic show thing in here, but that was kind of a fun experience too. Okay, let me see if I can talk about when. I might be able to talk about this one real quick. Okay, so this was January 5th. I had two scenarios. So, I was sitting there at my mom's house, and my brother, was living with her and everything. And my stepdad must have been deceased. He was deceased because he was not living there anymore. And my mom was all alone. We were talking a lot on the couch in the family room, and my brother was sitting there. I was looking at my brother, and he looked about 27 years old. Posed at 53 years old. He had short, bushy, brown hair. And, when he was younger, he had, bushy, brown hair. And it was so weird in the scenario, he had like a different personality. Like, he was so nice and so sweet, kind of like unlike in real life, where he has lots of demons in him, in real life. But in the scenario, he was just so nice and so sweet. And my mom was like, oh yeah, I'm so glad he's living with me, so I don't have to be by myself, etc., etc. But in real life, my mom kind of wants him to leave. And I remember my brother saying stuff like, we were sitting there, and my brother was like, oh, I want to give you this, I want to give you that, and blah, 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 blah. I don't know why he wanted to give me all these things, but he was sitting there saying he wanted to give me a bunch of stuff. Whoops. Okay, and, shit, what happened to it? Oh, here it is. Okay, and the next thing I know, this lasted quite a while, too. The next thing I know, DJ Dean showed up, and was just kind of like, la, 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 like he was my friend or something. But after I realized, like, my brother, give you this, I started being happy that he was living there, so my mom. But anyway, so then I started having all these thoughts, like I was happy that my brother was there, so he could be taking care of my mom, and blah, 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 blah. And so she wouldn't be alone. And then DJ D showed up, like he was my friend or something. And then I was kind of like, how come my brother's acting like he's just some regular Joe Blow person? My brother didn't realize that he was a famous trance artist. And I can't remember if we had a conversation. It didn't seem like we did, but it was me and my brother mainly talked a lot. And but I couldn't believe, I was sitting there thinking, I can't believe, you don't know who DJ Dean is. Because he was just acting like la 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 la, like he's just some regular friend or whatever. But anyway, that was kind of funny. Okay, so then, let's see. I don't know if I can talk about this other one, though. Well, I can talk about this one real quick. On November 12th, it took me a long time to... I wrote it down, but it took me a long time to talk about it, because... you gotta have time, you know what I'm saying? Gotta have time on your hands. So yeah, on November 12th, I did have a complete virtual reality experience, but it was still kind of more in a somewhat altered... a somewhat lucid dreamy state, but it was a complete virtual reality experience where somebody like knocked on my door and I was sleeping in the back bedroom. And so I walked down the hall and I'm like, why is my, front bedroom, why is the lights all on? Why is everything in disarray? I was like, oh, yeah, and when I was walking down, the hallway, I knew an alien had done that. Even in the scenario, I knew an alien had done that and messed up my bedroom and turned on all the lights. So then I realized I wasn't so scared that somebody had broken in because I knew the aliens had done it. And also I was like, why the hell is the light on in the turtle bathroom? Because I knew when I had this virtual reality experience, it was probably like 3 a.m. in the morning, and I knew I totally had turned them off before I went to bed. and the lights in the turtle room, in the turtle bathroom, were completely on. I knew I had turned it off before I went to bed. And there was some other stuff in disarray too, like in the living room, but I'm forgetting exactly what was in disarray. But the front bedroom was definitely in disarray, like the blankets were thrown everywhere and shit. This was a VR experience, even though I was kind of in a deeper state of mind, you know? And yeah, and also I did not know, you know, I was dreaming. But maybe I did figure it out a little bit since I knew the alien when I was, well, because I realized the alien had done it. But yeah, I still didn't really know I was dreaming though until I woke up. But anyway, yeah, so that was kind of fun. But that was on November 12th. That was quite a while ago. And he's given me many, many experiences like that before in this house. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, there's still some more I gotta talk about. Oh, I don't know if I have time to talk about this one, but I'll hurry. Okay, so November 17th, I had this OBE-VR lucid dream. I was like at my aunt's house, and we were in the kitchen, and it was like my aunt and a bunch of family members were there. We were sitting at kitchen tables. The kitchen table, about to eat and stuff. And I was helping myself to food. I was helping myself to food because my aunt kept setting out shit I couldn't eat. Yeah, I remember she kept coming out, you know, from the kitchen and kept setting platters of food on the kitchen table. And I was like, I can't eat that, I can't eat that, I can't eat that. So I kept, you know, walking around finding food that I could eat. And, but this other part was weird. Then I turned around and I looked on the floor and there was this decapitated man's head on the floor. And the man looked about 60 years old. And I know where the aliens got that from. He got that from that movie, The Defenders. Because it shows this decapitated head on the floor. But it was really weird. But that was, it wasn't a real long OBE-VR lucid dream, but it was long enough. But that was kind of fun. But she kept coming out and setting platters of food around, and I'm like, I can't eat that, I can't eat that. So I just kept taking it upon myself and going and finding food myself, you know, in her kitchen and stuff. And since I didn't write it down, I can't remember what I ate, but I know I did eat some stuff. Because I only wrote a few pieces down, and this was a couple months ago, so I already forgot some of it. Okay, I probably don't have time to talk about any more. Thanks for listening.